Will Joe Biden get prosecuted under the Trump administration the same way that Trump was prosecuted under the Biden administration? Well, there's a lot of evidence within the Hunter Biden laptop that lies dormant that may indeed lead to such an investigation. Many people would like that. There is new news on this topic. The prosecutor who investigated Hunter Biden's laptop came out with a report yesterday. We're going to get into that report as well as talk to the man who compiled the most comprehensive compilation of the crimes within the Hunter Biden laptop, or alleged crimes at this point. With that being said, let me bring on that man, Garrett Ziegler from the Marco Polo Research Group. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Ivy, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So Special Counsel David Weiss came out with his report yesterday saying that Joe Biden maligned the DOJ when he pardoned Hunter Biden for his felony convictions on gun and tax charges.
Yes.
So his report defends the DOJ's decision to charge Hunter Biden, but you are saying it's also a cowardly report. Why is that?
Three principal reasons. Number one, the pardon that Hunter received covers January 1st, 2014 to December 1st of 2024. All of that timeline was investigated by Weiss, and yet he didn't talk about anything they didn't charge Hunter with. So all he did was rehash what the public already knew through the prosecution in Delaware of the gun charges, which were already on record saying were pretty stupid. And then the 9 charges about taxes in California. But the FARA and the money laundering, which are basically the 2 biggest felonies and most serious felonies, Weiss didn't say anything about them. And so he had this grand opportunity, his sort of swan song, the bookend to this investigation. He could have spent a couple hundred pages going through the evidence, just like, for example, Jack Smith. Jack Smith did 175 pages on just the first volume of his report into Donald Trump. Now, I disagree with so much of that report, but nevertheless, you can't call Jack Smith lazy and cowardly because he actually put his work out there. With Weiss, he wants to go off into the sunset and not answer any tough questions. Now, he will have a public hearing with the House or the Senate. That's customary with special counsels. Maybe we'll get some more intel in that way. But the report itself was it wasn't even a whimper. Whatever is below a whimper, that's what this report was. Like I said off air, it's as if you did the term paper the night before it was supposed to be turned in. And, everybody's asking who's followed this story, is this all there is? I mean, he basically, there were only 80 footnotes, and all the footnotes were it was just legalese. There was no discussion that the prosecutors had about what to charge him with. And when you read the Jack Smith report, it's quoting the president, alleged quotes from the president. It's talking about their internal deliberations, which defenses could Trump mount. There was none of that. So it's totally disappointing, but keeping in character with what Weiss has done in the past. I'm sure you've covered the IRS whistleblowers. Didn't even talk about them. So you have a situation where somebody's releasing a report, and yet they themselves are the subject of 2 whistleblower complaints to Congress. Weiss didn't even mention any of that saga.
Wow. So Hunter Biden's attorney responded to Weiss's report, saying, yes. He said he criticized the report, saying that Weiss failed to explain why prosecutors, quote, pursued wild debunked conspiracies about the president's son. Are there wild debunked conspiracies, or what does the evidence say? Because can you first of all show the report you have, or the compilation you have?
Yes. So we released this already in October of 2022. It's the subject of a lawsuit, basically. So Hunter is suing me and our group for data violation laws. And so there are no conspiracy theories in this. What we did was basically go through the laptop and log only the criminal activity. Right. Mm-hmm. So we found 459 violations of laws and regulations, 459. Now, not all of those were committed by Hunter, but the lion's share were, about 310. And of course, Abby Lowell, his paid attorney, well, actually, Hunter doesn't even pay him. His sugar brother, Kevin Morris, does. But his attorney addresses none of that. His attorney just speaks in generalities. There's nothing that's come out from the House or from us that has been debunked in any way. They're not suing us for defamation. He's talking about an FBI confidential human source that we had nothing to do with. Alexander Smirnov, and about that the FBI 1023, that's not in this report because we had no independent corroboration of it. So it's not.
Wait, how did you get a hold of the Hunter Biden laptop?
So I worked in the White House under the first Trump term from 2019 to 2021. And through that process, I got to know Rudy Giuliani. And so I got a copy from Rudy. So it went from the laptop shop owner to Rudy to me. And we took 18 months at the start of 2021 going into 2022 to write the book. And I was actually a witness for the mother of Hunter's child in Arkansas in that child support litigation. I was her expert witness in the case.
Wow. Okay. But you're an independent journalist putting out true information from a source that's protected under the First Amendment, as far as I understand.
Yes, but they have made me and the group spend over $400,000 to defend ourselves in court. We're being sued in federal court by Hunter himself, and we're being sued in state court by Hunter's sugar brother, sort of the caveman looking figure who was smoking the bong on the porch, who's given Hunter about $10 million. Wow. That guy's also suing us for doxing. So this is, again, Weiss. We knew Weiss was corrupt before this report, but the fact that he was so cowardly that even in the face of this god-awful pardon, and of course, I think, as you know, I have two little boys. I don't think that any father would be hesitant to pardon their son. What people can't stand, and I can't stand, is the lies that Joe told, not during or leading up to the pardon, and then during the issuance of the pardon. Joe didn't have to release a press statement. He could have just issued the pardon, and that was that. But he had to make up all these lies about how everybody was out to get his little boy, and his little boy was a crackhead, and everybody's being tough on a little Hunter. First of all, Hunter turns 55 next month. People talk about him like he's a college sophomore. This guy isn't just sowing his wild oats at State U. This guy's 54. Wow. And not just that, but with his blanket federal immunity, the fact that Weiss punted, and that's what's being lost in this story about the special counsel. Jack Smith released his report. That'll dominate the news today. But the fact that Weiss was a man without a chest, right? That C.S. Lewis novel, Men Without Chests. That's basically what Weiss is. He won't tell the truth even if you give him complete immunity for it. And even when the president of the United States lied about him. Meaning, go ahead.
So you're saying you must be referring to the screenshot you tweeted from Weiss's report at the bottom. Yes. He says it would be inappropriate to discuss whether additional charges are warranted now against Hunter. Yeah. Because Hunter's immune to everything now. Yeah.
Well, at the federal level, yes, from January 2014 to December 1st of 2024. What's ridiculous about this sentence, though, it would be inappropriate to discuss whether additional charges are warranted. There's no law or regulation requiring him to do that. It's just Weiss's subjective assessment of what is appropriate. But because he's already pardoned for those crimes, Hunter would not be prejudiced in any way by the government talking about what they decided not to charge him with. He's obviously guilty of FARA violations, obviously guilty of money laundering violations, as is his uncle Jimmy Biden. But Weiss, it's a mixture of laziness and cowardliness. If they go to the bottom of this, if they do the work that we did, if the special counsel's report would be about 300 to 330 pages. Seriously. So number one, he's lazy. And number two, he doesn't have to answer as many tough questions. Now, he'll have his day in the Congress, and there'll be a lot of cameras around him. But if they really go to the bottom of this, they're going to find themselves talking to Chinese CCP energy executives, exiled Ukrainian energy owners who are stationed in Monaco right now because they can't even go back to Ukraine. So he basically copped out. As a prosecutor, this is a dream case, right? Because there's so much primary source evidence. Hunter documented not only his exploits with hookers and drug dealers, but other business partners. So really, Weiss should be ashamed of himself. The entire office should be ashamed of itself. And this is such a good. He punted on the best setup of any prosecutor ever. I mean, very rarely do criminals document their deeds in such excruciating detail, and he was even a coward in the face of that.
It's just incredible that he documented so much and just left the laptop. I just can't get over that. And you have screenshots of everything, including, his texts with Joe Biden and things, all
Yes.
documented in this report, and which we'll link down below, by the way. We'll link that report down below. So, so what are the chances that Joe Biden gets investigated and prosecuted under Trump now?
At the federal level, slim to none. I think the president and Melania have such a bad taste in their mouths about the illegal raid of Mar-a-Lago that even though there is probable cause to believe that Joe committed money laundering offenses, I think they're going to be reticent to do it at the federal level. Now, they should take a page from the left's playbook and recognize that state and local criminal violations and prosecutions are immune from the pardon power. So yes, Hunter has federal immunity, and Joe does, even more than Hunter because of his status as a former president and having that immunity for 4 exact years. But state and local prosecutors, and we've been saying this now for 2 years, should definitely look at these two men. And specifically the state of Arkansas. Hunter's financial advisor lived in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Every single wire transfer that Hunter used through Wells Fargo, Arkansas has jurisdiction over. And some of those crimes have a 6-year statute of limitations. So there's a really long window that are within the statute of limitations. And so there's no reason why these state AGs and county prosecutors, sort of like Fonnie Willis and Alvin Bragg, although these are actual crimes, to look under the hood here. When they start sending subpoenas, they'll realize that involved in the RICO enterprise right away are Jimmy, Joe's lookalike younger brother, and Joe himself. I mean, they sold Joe's public office for over a decade. That's what they did. The only non-cowardly thing that Weiss put in the report last night when he released it was that Hunter made money off his last name. But that's all we could get out of Weiss. That's all he could muster. He wouldn't go so far as to say this was a RICO operation, that they committed money laundering offenses. All he said was that Hunter made money off his last name in the Ukraine, which, of course, is obvious to anybody with a pulse. But, it's just, we have to do what the left did at a just level, which is Hunter's expecting all of us to forget about this, right? In 6 days is going to be out of the news cycle. But the state and local prosecutors have a cornucopia of criminal activity to choose from.
Wow. You wrote in your report, news outlets and think tanks have been unwilling to investigate and expose the hundreds of crimes and conflicts of interest on the Biden laptop, which definitively implicate sitting President Joe Biden. So
Precisely.
if Joe Biden is implicated in this, that's my question is now that he gets out of office, is he vulnerable to be prosecuted? And also my big thing is, how does this apply to the American people and their will being done in public office? When we elect someone, is he going to represent us, or is he going to use our vote to apparently influence peddle, as you brought together evidence to show? So can you explain the blackmail that you uncovered related to influence peddling in the 2020 election?
Well, I'll touch on the first thing about Joe's criminal activity. So Joe's main crimes when he was the VP, which he had no immunity for, and Hunter was involved, which we lay out in this report, are using non-public information for financial gain, acting as an agent for a foreign principal, principally Carlos Slim. He brokered meetings between his son and Carlos Slim, the Mexican telecom billionaire, who was at that time the richest man on planet Earth. Those violations are barred by statute of limitations. So 5 years for FARA violations. So, for example, even though Joe did commit that federal crime, now that it's 2025, even though he didn't have the immunity right in 2015 when this occurred, it's barred. So that's why I said that they're going to have a tough time going after Joe at the federal level. Mm-hmm. But the application to the American public is very clear. Number one, we have to make sure that people who are prosecutors at the non-federal jurisdictional level, state AGs, people who run for office at those levels, realize that they may be our last defense. If the AG of the United States, Merrick Garland, can't charge anyone he has to go through his 94 U.S. attorneys. And all those people should be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. But I think we're in such a grave state that most of those 94 are either careerist, meaning they don't want to charge anybody that would affect their future exit options to go work at Wilmer Hale, or they're just cowards like David Weiss. So the public should realize that in that scenario where you have 94 mostly corrupt and cowardly people, state AGs and local prosecutors, they are our last hope. I mean, every money laundering offense that Hunter committed, by its essence, it has a local jurisdictional component. Yes, the feds could charge it, but if we had an honorable AG in New York who wasn't going after Trump over his Stormy Daniels fiasco, they could charge Hunter Biden because he was using banks domiciled in Manhattan, right? So there are local ways to help counteract this federal corruption. That is all, our report's 644 pages. We talk about that on about 20 of these pages. We even have a subsection called non-federal jurisdictions. So Joe can't touch any of these local prosecutors. The only thing barring justice from occurring at the state and local level is that statute of limitations. And each state, like a quilt, has its own time frame for statute of limitations for different levels of crime. Obviously, there's no statute of limitations for murder. The one for rape is very long, right? But for this white collar criminal activity that we're talking about here, money laundering, acting as a foreign agent, most U.S. states have it anywhere from 3 to 6 years. And so the laptop cuts off March 17th of 2019. So as of March 17th, 2025, most of those crimes are going to be statute of limitations out. And unless we can prove that Hunter was committing a crime after the laptop material, which again, he just pled guilty in September to tax crimes in California in 2021, they won't have statute of limitations. So I think it's critical. This is a topic. This is an angle, I should state, to this saga that does not get talked about a lot, the state and local prosecutor angle. And that's what we've been screaming from. This has been our main beat, if you want to call it, for over 2 years now. We focus on a couple of other stories. We're very interested in this. I know this is not directly related to Hunter, but it sort of is. We're very interested in this brothel scandal that was run out of DC and Boston with these high-end clients who are going to be named next month in Boston. I'm going out there. But Hunter did the same sort of thing. And, and so we talk a lot about what those local prosecutors could have done if they weren't in blue states: Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, California, all of those states that have local jurisdiction to the criminal activity.
Wow. So why do you think it seems like most of the American people don't care much about this story? Why do you think that is? What do you think the essence of why it matters to them is being missed with like his crude pictures that are on there?
Well, I agree with you that I think it should garner more attention. Secondly, our book, the first section of it and the largest section is business related crimes, because I think the sex and drug related crimes don't affect the nation as a whole, right? We put them in there because we wanted to tell the complete story and tell the complete truth and get a final number of crimes on the laptop. But what affects the public is Hunter's foreign dealings, right? And Joe's involvement in those foreign dealings. And secondly, the people are interested in, and rightly so, on justice. But justice is a very high bar. And I actually consider justice to be a higher bar than truth. And what we can provide as a nonprofit entity with zero law enforcement capability is the truth. But we can't provide justice. And so sometimes people get discouraged when you lay out the truth of a matter, but you also do not provide the justice of the matter, right? So truth is right here, justice is right here. And the people sometimes, they don't even want to hear the truth if it doesn't achieve justice. And that's why I talk about the local and state prosecutors all the time, because the only way we're going to reach that bar, I mean, it really is a sad state of affairs at the federal government level, saying to the American public, the U.S. attorney system is so corrupt that you're never going to see justice for Hunter at the federal level. That is the truth. It's the hard truth. It's the truth that a lot of people don't want to hear. But there is still a chance at the state and local level. But all we can do from our perch at Marco Polo And by the way, the book that you alluded to, it's available for free. This is just the physical copy, but the actual e-reader and the PDF version can be found at bidenreport.com. It's had over 10 million views. So the e-reader's out there for free. It's keyword searchable. For example, if you don't want to look at any of Hunter's dealings with pimps or drug dealers, I would just say focus on the business related crimes. We break it down by country. And, you know, the last point I'll make about the public's attention on this matter is they are probably rightly relieved that this scourge of Bidenism, I'll call it, is being taken away from us in 6 days, right? So they are probably rightly focused on getting the 10 plus million illegals out of the nation who Joe, by the way, the illegal immigration topic is still relevant to this book because Joe was the main cause of that along with Mayorkas. So all of our present discontents can come back to this one man from Delaware who basically set his son up as the in-house family bagman, right? And, you know, one angle that doesn't get talked about a lot is Hunter didn't actually want to be a businessman. His dad basically forced him into this life because Hunter's other brother, Bo, was going to be the public official. Joe actually wasn't going to run for president. Bo was. But when he died of brain cancer, Hunter needed to make more cash for the family, number one. But Hunter wasn't ever happy. That's part of the reason why he did all these drugs. It's part of the reason why he's suing us, because we've examined him so closely that we tell him in our own book hard truths about himself, which is he never wanted to be a businessman or a lawyer or a lobbyist. That was all because his family needed the money. He was on the hamster wheel of suburban Washington having to pay a $7,500 mortgage payment, and his wife had, you know, about $15,000 of Saks Fifth Avenue credit at any given time, and he just had to pay all that. What he really wanted to do was become a writer at the New Yorker. But he had this domineering father who wanted him to be this bagman and this perfect brother that the public thought was unblemished. And by the way, he had to pay for all of his brother's expenses. He paid for his brother's college and law school, etc. So he was really used his whole life like a pack mule.
Wow. That's poor Hunter. Poor, but not.
He's not innocent. He's not innocent. But it's an angle. I think that's what makes him so angry at us. And his wife, when I went to his criminal trial in Delaware in June, his wife screamed at me outside of the courtroom and called me a Nazi and said I had no right to be there, which of course is ridiculous because any citizen can go watch court proceedings. But one of the reasons why they hate us so much is not because I have any animosity towards the family per se. I've just exposed what they've done. I've explained Hunter sort of to himself a little bit, and that's what he hates because he knows he pissed away the years from 25 to 55 on foreign clients that he never cared about. So that's why he's doing his doodles, because he really wants to be an artist and a writer.
Really? So
he's always thought of himself as that.
So what can the American people do to get, you know, their government to take this seriously?
Well, they have to localize it. I would say we lay out in our dossier, which is why I'm so mad at David Weiss. If anybody's wondering why I have such a frustration with this special counsel's report, is because nothing was shackling him. Hunter had been pardoned. He could have really done his job and delivered 200 pages of evidence implicating Joe, implicating Hunter, implicating Jimmy to the public, and nothing could be done. And nothing could be done to stop it. Hunter can't say he was prejudiced because he was already pardoned. There was no ongoing criminal case. So what the public has to understand is that each of these crimes, money laundering, sex trafficking, drug dealing, those all have a local component, and they could petition their local officials to do something about it. There's nothing that says these money laundering charges have to be brought by the federal U.S. attorney. It'd be nice if they did, but they likely won't. So that's why we've met with the Arkansas AG's office, the now governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry. I met with him when he was the AG of Louisiana. There was an energy deal down in Louisiana that Hunter brokered with the Chi-Coms. They were supposed to get LNG. They were going to build a port in Louisiana to ship LNG to the Chinese. It was insane. But there were money laundering and violations in that deal. So I would ask the public to localize these. This isn't stuff that happened, afar off. That we put the actual state level statute in the book, and they can go cross-reference that. And we have a standing bounty for $1,000. We've had a donor put it up in 2022 for any error in the report. In fact, when I was deposed in the child support case, because the mom brought me on. I told Hunter's attorneys that they can call me a bigot all they want, but they've never actually called me a liar. And I told them that we have a bounty for anything you can find wrong in this thing, because that's all I care about, right? As a writer, people aren't gonna like your personality or your the way you say things, right? But what I'm saying true? That is the only thought that goes through my brain, right? And if I say something that's false, I apologize profusely, right? Because we're Christians. But so far with the Biden stuff, all I've had to do is look at a laptop. The evidence is right there. So I couldn't lie because it's staring me right in the face.
Wow, incredible. So as far as your case, I mean, it sounds like you're in deep with the money. Can people support you at all if the viewers want to help you?
Yeah, I would. The nonprofit. So if they go to bidenreport.com and read the e-reader of this, at the top left, they can click on the dolphin logo for our group, and that goes to our main website. Our trial with Hunter is set for September 6th of this year. So we go to trial with Hunter in Los Angeles in 9 months. I think it'll be pushed back probably, but he'll have to testify, right? He won't have to testify, but he will. And we're facing a corrupt judge. The judge in our case was appointed by Hunter's daddy 2 months before he was assigned to our case. He got on the bench in July of 2023, and Hunter sued me in September of 2023, and we filed a recusal motion. So we're basically going through what Trump went through in New York, right? He filed a recusal motion against Juan Merchan. Juan Merchan, even in the midst of obvious conflicts of interest with his daughter, refused to recuse himself. Same thing happened with us. Hernan Vera is refusing to recuse himself. And so we're going to have to convince the jury in Los Angeles that we didn't commit any hacking violations. For us to have been guilty of what Hunter is accusing us of, I would have had to break into the FBI and steal his physical laptop, which has been in their evidence locker since December of 2019. Hunter's lawsuit is saying that he owns the Western Digital hard drive that I myself bought from Best Buy, which is ludicrous, right? He's making the law say something it doesn't. And there's already a Supreme Court case, US v. Nosal, that is in our favor, but the corrupt judge in California is not looking at that. So it could be the case that we don't win this thing till the Ninth Circuit. Our group, our C3, has had to pay over $400,000 to lawyers to defend ourselves. The whole family is madder than a hornet up a woman's skirt at us. I mean, it's ridiculous. Hunter talked about his dad. And by the way, we're under DOJ investigation. We had a whistleblower within the DOJ send us a screenshot that the Department of Justice is investigating us for doxing. So Joe is basically sicking his feds on us, not unlike what they did with Ashley's diary. One of the other reasons they're really mad at us is because we transcribed Ashley's diary and put her diary online at bidendiary.com. Again, we didn't publish the original diary. All we did was take her Coke-infused chicken scratches. She wrote like she was a physician. You couldn't understand the dang thing. She had terrible penmanship. And so all we did was transcribe it. And we've had over 5 million views of this, and Joe's livid about this. Joe can't stand that the diary is online. So that's why he's getting Abby Lowell, Hunter's attorney, to sue us as basically retribution for going after his family, when all we didn't go after anybody. All we did was put his own children's records online, right? It was, Ashley at 37 writing this, that she took probably not appropriate showers, not Garrett Ziegler, being an ogre. So this, I don't think this gets solved till 2026. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, it's the same as the New York Times publishing the Pentagon Papers back in the 70s.
Yes.
Did they hack and steal those papers? No, a source turned it over and they published the truth about it. And it's just sad that, apparently, back then it was protected by the Constitution, but now it might not be. If it is, you have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars just for your constitutional right to publish the truth. I hate that this is happening in America. But
Me too. And I would appreciate the opportunity to come back on and talk about the case with you, because it's going to be wild. We have depositions next month. We'll be deposing Hunter Biden. He's looking for millions of dollars in damages. And he knows I'm a young guy. So it's not about the money per se. It's about shutting down our websites. They've already asked the federal judge. So get this. The U.S. First, and this is hardly ever covered, the U.S. First Family has requested a federal judge to take down websites of an American nonprofit. That's what they've done with us. They want to take down our book and our email database, so everybody can go download and look at every email on the Biden laptop at bidenlaptopemails.com, and then every photo with genitalia redacted at bidenlaptopmedia.com. We've had over 10 million views to both of them.
Incredible. Well, I hope that you win it for the free press, for the First Amendment. I hope you win it, and for the truth. Yeah, keep in touch about that. Maybe we can discuss that case as it goes. Garrett Ziegler, great talking to you with Marco Polo.
Thank you, Ivory.
All the best. Talk to you later.